Hi everyone, welcome to the 48th episode of the Zicast. As always, I'm your host Ryan Ziax, and today I'm joined by Quinnipiac University's Dean of Communications, Nadine Barnett Cosby.
Hi Ryan, thanks for having me.
Of course, to shout out episode 31 guest Liam Chen for TDing once again. So Nadine, I'm very excited to get to know you, so with that all said, how about you tell us a bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Again, thanks for having me. I actually have watched your podcast. We met back in June in LA. And since then, I've been kind of checking out episodes whenever they pop up. So it's really cool to be a guest on it. I was so surprised when you asked me to come in. So I am the new dean of the School of Communications here at Quinnipiac. I'm here from New York, right? I was at another institution in New York for a very long time. I actually am originally from Jamaica, born in Jamaica, and grew up most of my life in the Bronx. Yeah.
Awesome. Was it Iona, if I'm not mistaken?
That's right.
Yeah. I did a little bit of research here.
Yes, you did.
Prepare. And thank you for telling us that. And I'd like to get into the topics I wrote up here. So I'd like to ask you, what drew you to wanting to become the Dean of Communications here?
Yeah. So, before I worked in academia, I worked in media for many years. So coming to higher education was a second career for me. And I was faculty. I literally started out as an adjunct before I became full-time faculty, before I became tenured, and before I became administration. What appealed to me about this position is that it was the perfect opportunity for me to kind of merge my media background with my higher education, teaching, and administrative background. So it's the chance to bring all of my experience into the role, to oversee the School of Communications, to look at the curriculum that we're offering, to look at what types of innovative programs are happening or what we can create here. So it just seemed to be kind of that perfect combination of my professional background that I already had, and I was excited about the opportunity to bring kind of all of myself to this role.
So you'd say your interests fall more in line with like television and media?
Yeah, I would say so. I worked in TV for many years. I've kind of worked in all different aspects of media. I worked in radio, I worked in television, I worked in film. But I would say the most amount of time that I spent in media was in television, working in operations and production.
And could you tell us a bit about that experience, especially for communication students who will definitely be listening to this?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny because when I went to college, I studied communications, and when I went into the professional world, for a long time I thought I wanted to be in front of the camera. And I actually thought I wanted to be an anchor. And I found it interesting, but when I started doing internships and had the opportunity to be in studios and to be on sets, I was really captivated by producers. I was watching how they worked on a set. They were calling the shots. They were telling everyone what to do, not in a bossy way, but in a way that spoke to, I think, what my best skill sets are, which is I'm really organized, and I like to coordinate. I like to put the pieces together and create something. And from that point, I decided I wanted to be behind the scenes and not in front of the camera.
Yeah, I always say producing is where the money is. So that's probably the better route to take. And I like that you brought up LA, which is where we were able to meet, and that's such a great way to kick off your career here at Quinnipiac, getting to go to LA. How was that experience for you?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was the best possible way I could have started my time here at Quinnipiac. We have the QU in LA program, and I knew that we had students out in LA completing internships, and studying while they're out there and living in LA, right? Just kind of living the life. And I knew I was going to eventually have to go out there and visit our program director out there, Andreas. And, then it was the 10th anniversary of QU in LA. So it just seemed like the perfect time for me to go and get the lay of the land out there before even coming here and getting focused on what's happening on the ground here. So that experience was fantastic. I enjoyed being with you guys, being with the group of students out there. we went on some cool trips and tours, and that entire experience really impressed me. And I thought, okay, if this is just one small program that's happening, I know that I'm in store for a lot of excitement once I get to campus. And that was true.
Definitely. Yeah. It's a great example of like the things the School of Comm can offer students. Of course, it's not just centered for School of Comm kids, but like I'm an English major and I was out there. But yeah, it's a great example of like what you can do here. Liam was out there as well in the past. And yeah, it was just so much fun. It's an incredible experience. And it leads us well into our next topic, which is what are some of your goals with Quinnipiac and the School of Communications?
Yeah, where do I begin? That's a tough one because I think one thing that I've observed is the School of Communications is in a fantastic position. The programming is just phenomenal. The faculty are amazing. So I would say my goal is to really just elevate that in all of the ways I can. I want to make sure that we are as current as we can be with our curriculum and technology. I want to make sure that what we are, teaching students aligns with what's happening in the industry. So that's a major goal. I mean, if I can dream really big, I want a building that's the School of Communications building, right? With all of the things that go with that, all of the technology and, a cutting edge communications building and facility would be fantastic. But of course, other things like continuing to grow the programs that already work, growing QU in LA, maybe expanding, maybe something like QU in New York, that type of thing. So it really is about finding what the students can benefit from and creating more and more opportunities for them.
Build a big skyscraper.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do it.
And that's very interesting because I've thought about that even when I was in QU. Like it would be interesting, like QU in New York. I joke the QU in Vegas, but I don't know how helpful that would be for students. But that also sparks an interesting question. Like, is there any like new developments in the area of like media and communications you'd want to like capitalize on or emphasize on?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's already happening here at the School of Communications, right? So when I think about new developments, certainly, of course, AI comes to mind. And we're already incorporating AI into a lot of our courses, as well as designing new courses that focus on AI and how it's used in different aspects of communications, whether it's advertising and PR, whether it's in production. Certainly, we know that professional news outlets are already using AI in their journalistic efforts. So really, that's, something that's pretty recent, pretty cutting edge, and we're definitely building on that. And the same thing with AR and VR. There's a lot of augmented reality, virtual reality that's happening now in media and communications. And we're also we've jumped on that, and we're making sure that we're incorporating that into our curriculum as well.
Interesting. AI can be very useful if used right. Of course, it's a very scary new thing, but that is very interesting. Like, in what ways would you want to use or feel like it could be useful to use it?
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that question because I think a lot of people just think of AI as scary and don't necessarily think about how useful it can be. And, just going back, I remember when, folks were saying that, just having Google was going to ruin everything, right? Ruin society. I remember in school when Wikipedia was a big deal. And I think AI is just the next version of that same it's the next iteration of technology that gives us access to more information and makes a lot of things a little bit easier, but there's also a lot unknown about it, right? So, we have reason to have some concerns, but overall, I would say it can be a wonderful and powerful tool if we learn to use it correctly. And I think there's so many shortcuts that AI provides when we think about production, when we think about fact checking. In fact, I think what's really great about AI is that it forces us to fact check a little bit more and in a different way so that we're not just taking things at face value. That's the part of media literacy that I think has been lacking in society. We have become a society that kind of takes everything at face value. So we see something on social media, so we assume it must be true, right? I think the fact that AI and the emergence of it is forcing us to fact check a little bit more. we're all benefiting from that. So, but I think there are lots of different ways we can use it. It helps me on my, in my day-to-day work. I use it quite often, and sometimes it's to brainstorm ideas. Sometimes it's to kind of find alternate options for terminology that I'm wanting to use. And certainly sometimes it just creates ideas, right? It like generates ideas, and I can take those ideas and then run with it and determine a direction that I'll go in. So it's also a creative tool.
Very, very interesting. And yeah, it's a great way to like, if you can kind of mold it to your liking, it can really service you in those interesting ways. And especially like in practicing something, like if you write a script, you can maybe see it performed through AI in a way. Like there's a lot of ways to use that. And I think that's very interesting. And kind of moving forward, I'd like to ask you, like, what kind of an impact would you like to leave on Quinnipiac during your time as a Dean of Communications outside of the giant skyscraper?
That's a really great question. Well, I think in general, I would say, like everything else, I'd like to leave a place better than I found it, right? So definitely just a very positive impact. If I, whenever my time at Quinnipiac ends, if I have moved the School of Communications in a really positive direction, if we have experienced growth, right, in terms of students, in terms of faculty, in terms of the curriculum, in terms of opportunities, in terms of maybe a lot more partnerships that we might have with external organizations, with companies, if I've created more pipelines to internships, but also certainly pipelines for students to direct employment after graduation, I would feel like I did a really good job.
Is there any like specific partnerships you have in mind in any capacity? There
are. I don't want to give away all my secrets, but I definitely do have some partnerships in mind. I'll say that, being here, we're super close to New York, which is a media epicenter. And I think that we can capitalize on that a lot more than what we're already doing. So there's a lot of opportunity for partnership there, as well as throughout the region. We have Boston nearby, right? We're kind of centralized in Connecticut. I think we're in a great position to really create more and more partners that our students will benefit from.
Awesome. And it makes me think, so obviously New York, LA, those are the two big like media hubs. Would you say New York's bigger for like television and LA would be bigger for film?
In general, yes, but, TV has changed so much. Of course, film has too. So I think, there's a ton of TV that's happening in LA. There's a ton of film that's happening in New York. And then other places in between, right? Like I wouldn't, leave Atlanta out of the conversation if we're talking about production opportunities. So the playing field there is pretty level, I would say. There are tons of opportunities on the West Coast, but yeah, New York is a strong player as well in television, film, digital.
Very, very interesting. Any other places that belong in the conversation around the country you think for like good media hubs?
Those are probably the three primary ones that come to mind for me: New York, Atlanta, and LA. But then there are these kind of smaller little pop-up hubs, and they actually vary over time depending on what location might be giving, greater tax breaks to productions coming to that area and so on. But those would be the three primary ones for me.
Yeah. Liam and I, as graduating seniors, we're soaking up this information. And this leads us well into me asking some questions about you. So like to start things off, like what are some things people might not know about you, like fun facts?
Okay. Fun facts. I love music. I love concerts. I love really good live music. I love to cook and bake. I'm a really good cook. What else? Well, I'm a boy mom. I'm always proud of that, even though they're men now, they're young men. But yeah, I have spent my life, as an adult, as a parent, engaging in lots of guy things, and I am in a house full of men, so it kind of makes me a bit of a guy's guy, right?
Interesting. What artists would you say you're a fan of?
So many, and over so many different periods of time. I love a lot of different genres of music. So I love R&B, but I love hip hop, more so old school hip hop, not so much contemporary. I love reggae. I enjoy jazz. Some pop as well. So I don't know. I can't say that I have one particular artist that is maybe my favorite, but going old school, big fan of Prince, big fan of Michael Jackson. I love, the music of Maxwell. I said old school hip hop. I enjoy Jay-Z, Nas. Lots of different artists, lots of different styles of music, and I can go really old school as well.
Awesome. There's a lot of opportunities to work in music through the School of Comm. Like Liam was able to intern with Ziggy Marley and his company in Los Angeles, which is always very available to QNLA students. What thing? And on a similar note of your answer, like what things do you like to cook? Would you say you're the best at?
So it's interesting because I mentioned I'm Jamaican, so I cook really good Caribbean food. At the same time, what I've been enjoying more recently is trying out TikTok recipes, Instagram recipes. I spent years cooking for, a house full of people, right, for a family. And now that everyone's kind of out of the house, it gives me the opportunity to explore and try things out. So, top foods, I would say definitely would be Caribbean food, but lots of other types of foods that I enjoy cooking. And I bake a lot, too. I'm a really good baker.
Interesting. And mentioning TikTok reminds me of that epic Gen Z video that you were a part of.
I was afraid you were going to mention that.
Yeah. For way back when, that I was my job, and I Quinnipiac Productions. We got all the deans. For context, we got all the deans at the school to say Gen Z slang, and you said that School of Communications is giving main character energy, and then hit the snap slay. It was it was quite the moment. And kind of moving onwards, I'd like to ask you, what's one thing you love and one thing you strongly dislike?
Ooh. One thing I love, I actually love the outdoors. I love hiking. Just this past weekend, in total, between Saturday and Sunday, I probably did about 10 or 11 miles. One thing I strongly dislike, oh my goodness, that's a tough one. So there are lots of things. I strongly dislike snow.
Unfortunately,
right. And here I am, right? And being stuck inside because it's too cold. I'm a person that, as long as it's not, if there's not snow on the ground and if it's not ridiculously cold, I'll get outside and walk. I love the outdoors. So being stuck inside is not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you could see behind me, we have quite the hiking trails for us. So but that's interesting, like your background in New York, not liking the cold. I figured that's something you would, you're definitely used to it.
I'm used to it, but I just despise it. I guess it's the Caribbean blood in me. Once winter sets in, I try not to let it stop me. If the weather's not too bad, I still bundle up and I get outside. But I really don't like the cold.
Yeah, I have to admit, as the older I get, the less I like the cold.
Yeah.
So I very much attest to that. And I'd like to ask you, if you have any personal or professional goals moving forwards. I know I asked you about your goals for School of Comm, but anything else in your career you'd like to seek?
Yeah, it's funny because with each role that I've had, I feel like I'm kind of living out my goals, and I pretty much just leave myself open to realizing new goals, right? I kind of let them come to me as I'm doing something that I enjoy doing, and really that's the main goal I keep for myself professionally. And this went back to when I was young and starting out working in media. I have to do something that I enjoy, and if I don't enjoy it, then that's my indication that I should be doing something else. Yeah,
I feel like that's the key message to life, is to play the game you want to play, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And to chase that, and all the incredible places it could take you, being the Dean of Communications at Quinnipiac University, getting to go to LA and all of that. And to kind of wrap things up, I'd like to ask you, what's some of your favorite movies?
Okay, so this is a question I think about quite often, and I don't know that the movies that I would say are my favorite, or maybe my top 5 or top 10, would be very familiar to students. But I'm going to share some of them. A Bronx Tale is a movie I love. The Five Heartbeats, Love Jones, Goodfellas is another one. What else? Higher Learning is one. Those are probably my top. Oh, I forgot one that's really maybe number 1, Shawshank Redemption. Yeah.
I mean, those are some great picks, and you're putting us on to some stuff that we haven't heard of, and bringing up some classics.
Yeah.
Yeah. And overall, Dean, thank you so much for coming on this episode.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. And is there anything you'd want to leave the audience with before we actually wrap things up here?
Well, I mean, it's exciting to be here. I want, students to be sure to stop by, say hi whenever they can. Don't be shy. I love what I do because I love the interaction with students. And I don't always get to interact with a lot of students in this role, and sometimes they might not think that they're welcome to, just walk up to me or to come to my office. So I really want to be a part of the community. That's important to me. So definitely don't hesitate to just, say hi if you see me on campus. Come by my office in CCE and introduce yourselves and say hello.
Perfect. Yeah, because you're always a friendly face, and it was great getting to meet you in LA and work with you on the Jet Z shoot. And it meant a lot to me when you told me that you watched this show, and that was so cool that like the Dean of Communications watches the Zicast. Like, I must be doing something right.
You are.
And so I appreciate it, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on here.
Of course.
And I'm very excited to see what you do with the School of Comm, both when I'm here and then when I'm gone.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Ryan.
Of course. And as always, this is Ryan Zikast with the Zicast, where everyone has a story. Signing off. Thank you so much for watching.